Welcome to Good Grief, the podcast where resilience meets reality. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Malone. In this podcast, we delve deep into the stories of individuals who've triumphed over tragedy, adversity, and trauma. In every episode, we bring you raw and honest narratives from guests who faced life's most challenging moments head on. Through candid conversations, they share their journeys of resilience, shedding light on the strategies, mindset shifts, and support systems that empowered them to rise above their darkest hours. Join us as we explore the profound depths of human resilience and discover how, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and yes, good grief. Okay, listeners, thank you so much for joining me for my episode today. My guest today is Rebecca Schaper. She's an author, filmmaker, philanthropist, and a healer. Her book, Roses to Rainbows, is her second soulful memoir. She's also co-directed and was the executive producer of the award-winning documentary A Sister's Call, about her mission to bring her brother, Carl Richmond Jr., back from the depths of homelessness and schizophrenia. Her book, The Light in His Soul, is based on that story. So, Rebecca, thank you for joining me today. If you'd like, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me here, Christine. I really appreciate it. And I grew up in the South, and I grew up in a family where both parents died by suicide. My father was the sexual predator. Both parents were alcoholics. And my mother had paranoid schizophrenia, and so did my brother. But fast forward, my brother left, was homeless for 20 years, but I knew that he was alive. I just knew the whole time he was alive, and I never gave up trying to find him. And through a miracle, I found him. 20 years later, through a miracle, I found him. So that's when things really started to come to fruition as far as my purpose, or I wouldn't say my purpose. It's more my soul purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And when I know that I am doing what my soul is telling me to do, I will be directed. I have faith, and I just know that I'm on the right path. So we produced a documentary film called A Sister's Call, and my brother's name is Carl, and it took 14 years to film. Yeah, but I just knew. And here's something I would love for the audience to know, and I'll wrap that into also the two books that I wrote as well. I did not know anything about filming. I didn't know. The only background I had was a hobby as far as a photographer. I didn't know how to write books. I didn't know anything. But people came into my life to help me do this, and I knew I was on my path. And yes, of course, I was directed in different ways and knew that I had to have faith and trust that, okay, this is the route I'm supposed to take. I'm not supposed to control this type of route. And I just had to let go and let everything flow. And I was very blessed throughout the whole thing, throughout the documentary and writing the book, the people that came in my life, everything was synced up. It was just, it was incredible.
Meant to be.
But it wasn't, I felt like I was a vessel for my purpose.
Now, was your
And
brother still alive when you were writing?
no, he passed away in 2012 of colon cancer. And I just, I go back and I think, wow, if this did not happen in my life, I would not be able to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I had to experience all of this in order to help others, because I feel like if you haven't experienced it, you really don't understand what people are walking through. And grief can be the biggest transformer.
Yes.
It broke my heart wide open, but it gave me so much strength and endurance to know that, okay, I've got a choice here.
Yeah.
Either I can just crawl up and live in a little hole or isolate myself from everybody, or I can do this situation that has occurred and help others.
Right.
And transformed me so much because I came out better on the other side. And it gives me so much more compassion for others and understanding where people are coming from.
Yep. Well, you and I
And
were talking about
my
that.
yeah, the whole purpose is to help others. It's and I knew that that's where my life was going. And during the time when I was, with my family, I knew at 15 years old, everything around me was happening for a reason, but I didn't know until
Yeah.
later in years, and I'm like, "Okay, this is what it's about."
Yeah. Yep. So your book and the documentary are about life with your brother or life searching for your
It's it
brother?
it it's br it breaks open everything. It talks about the sexual abuse, it talks about the alcoholism, it talks about suicide. I mean, it's very authentic and nothing is held back because I wanted to expose everything because I wanted to help other people.
Right.
And it broke the cycle. I wanted to break the cycle. That was it. I
Yep.
wanted to break the cycle. And
Mhm.
my brother, Carl, was an incredible individual. To this day, he knew because when we met after us finding each other, it was like he almost knew that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
The documentary.
Now, my understanding with schizophrenia is the symptoms don't start up until adulthood. Was that the experience that you?
Yeah, he went to college,
Yeah.
and that's when it happened. But here's one thing too. I think that there are individuals that take on all the trauma in the family, and
Mhm.
they don't know how to absorb it, and so they just break open,
Yeah.
break down, break open, and that's why he took off
Yeah.
and left 20 years. But again, I always knew he was alive, and he was the catalyst of the film.
Yeah. So when you found him, how much longer was it after you found him that he was before he passed?
I found him in 1999. He passed 2012.
Right, so you had several years in there.
Mhm.
Now, what was that like? What was your relationship like?
Oh, I lived in Atlanta, and he lived in Greenville, South Carolina, and I would drive back and forth, and I mean, there was something about him that I wanted to expose to people that, "Hey, I don't let's not label these people as schizophrenias. We can learn from them."
Yeah.
And he taught me a lot. He was very, very bright, very bright. He was quiet, but very observant, and he knew. Like, for example, my, 2 daughters in Atlanta, something was going on with them, with one of them, and for some reason, he picked up the phone and called me and said, "Rebecca, what's going on with, Kim?" He I never told him. It's like it was almost like telepathic that
Mm.
he knew something was going on.
Mhm.
Um, and he taught me a lot. He taught me patience.
Yeah.
I'm still working. That's a work in progress.
Yep, yep. I hear that, I hear that. So,
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you have any thoughts for, someone who's listening or watching that, has a family member that has, schizophrenia as a diagnosis. What advice, what might you say, to because I know that's very painful. What would be some tips you might be able to
If they are the caretaker, they need to take care of themselves.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And, try to get help. There's NAMI, that's a support group. It's free. And if there's association in their area, and just be careful on the drugs that are submitted to them because my brother was flat, made him flat, and I was pretty bullheaded about what he was taking because I felt like I was talking to the medication and not my brother.
Yeah.
And they have so much to give and be patient with them
Yeah.
and know that they love you. And I know it can be very, very hard and challenging at times because it was for me. You take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back, but you got you just gotta hang in there but the biggest key is take care of yourself
Well,
in
yeah.
the process.
So I'm going to guess I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, did you feel like writing your book and making the documentary was it rather healing for you? Did you feel like you got really some healing out of that yourself?
Yeah, it was pretty cathartic for me. But I was focusing more on my brother
Mhm.
because I wanted to let people know that you don't have to be afraid of them. He doesn't carry a gun. Um, Granted, there are that I agree, there are situations, but he was like a gentle giant.
Yeah. Oh, he sounds
And
special.
I just wanted to bring the my real brother out.
Yeah. Rather, I know what you're saying. A lot of people, they label someone who has a severe diagnosis, whatever that might be, by their diagnosis, right? It's kind of like, well, that's what this person is, and it's like that's never just what this person is. It's just a part of who they are. So to kind of see the human in there as well as not just whatever they've got going on, I think is a really important message.
Exactly, and I feel like that, even maybe the voices that they hear, is it something we can tap into that they're understanding that we're not, like autism,
Mm, mm.
people who have, severe autism? So, there is I'll just throw this in there because I just heard there's a telepathic talk. There are videos on children who are very artistic, and they are incredible human beings,
Mhm.
and they're wiser than we are. So if anybody in the audience has a severe autistic child, telepathic talks, look that up. It's this cutting edge, um,
Yeah,
stuff
that,
they're
that's
finding out. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, thank you. And we will definitely have a link to your book. The Actually, I know you've got another book we're going to talk about here in a minute, as well as website, so on and so forth. So someone can find that if they'd like to read about it in the documentary as well. So I know the second part of your story is about the book that's coming out in April, Roses to Rainbow. And this is, as we were talking before I started recording, a topic that is very dear to my heart, and that is loss of a pet. So tell us about your experience with Gus and kind of where the book came from.
Gus was like my co-pilot. I mean, he was my soul dog for sure. I mean, if you had that one dog that you connect to, and that was my dog, Gus. And December 7th of 2023, he died unexpectedly at 6 years old.
Oh,
It broke my heart. Oh, I'm gonna start crying a little bit, but, yeah, he was incredible.
so what kind of dog was
The
he? What was his breed?
wire-haired Vizsla from Hungary.
Okay.
They're beautiful dogs, they're very intelligent, but there was that strong connection that we had, and we just knew each other. We knew each other. Like I like he would look at me and I would look at him. I know what he'd be thinking, he'd know what I'd be thinking,
Yep.
and he was always there with me. We did adventures together, and it just when he died unexpectedly, it devastated me for 8 months. I grieved. Yeah, and I still do. But, um, I contacted a pet communicator,
Mhm.
and she was phenomenal. I had 10 different sessions with her, and Gus channeled to her, and she wrote all the transcripts. They're in the book, and then I would write what my feelings were about it, and as time went on, I started documenting pictures of situations that would happen just because I felt like I needed to do that. So people, fast forward, wouldn't think I'm crazy thinking about this, and I'm like, Here is a picture that documents what the pet communicator said and what Gus said to her." It j it was incredible, and I knew at that point I needed to honor him,
Yeah.
honor his intelligence, and honor that you're not alone, that your dog is always with you. He wants to communicate with you. You have to be aware of that. But if you're in a lot of grief, they don't come through. But if you open your heart up, they will come through. I've had the most incredible signs from him. And again, I have pictures in the illustrations in the book to show that. And I know that your audience, I'm sure there are people out there who have lost their beloved pet, that they're there to be with you. They want to help you.
Yeah.
And so I remember I kept thinking, Gus, are you going to come back? Are you going to come back? I want you to come back. And I didn't want to manipulate the situation. I had to just let go and allow everything to fall in place and trust. Trust was the biggest thing.
Right.
And now fast forward, December 7th of 2023 was when my dog died.
Mhm.
December 4th was the day that my mother died by suicide. And that's the day that our new dog, Zeke, a wired-haired Vizsla from the same breeder, flew in on December 4th, 3 days prior to my dog's anniversary, Gus's anniversary. Everything was lined up of him reincarnated. I mean, there's a reincarnation of him. He's out there with my husband right now. And the reason why I say this is because as soon as we got him, he immediately got my dog Gus's favorite toy.
Oh,
Yep, got his favorite toy and ran around with it. My dog used to do twirls. He did twirls. We were babysitting my other this other dog, my daughter's dog, and I brought her Stella, her down after Gus had died, and she was out in the yard howling for him because she knew he was gone. And so then, fast forward probably about a month after we got him, we went to our beach house. It was like he had been there before. He
yeah.
didn't skip a beat. And there's so many synchronicities and common characteristics of my dog, Zeke, my new dog, Zeke, and Gus. But
Yeah.
what I have heard that if they reincarnate in your body, in the dog's body completely, it will blow out all the circuits in the dog, but that there are lots of characteristics of
Okay.
Gus and Zeke, a lot.
Yeah.
And I just know, and I know that Zeke is going to be part of my healing process too, as far as helping others. I just know it's it's a deep knowing, and
Yeah.
I ask people
Have
just
you,
be aware.
have
Why?
you ever seen the movie A Dog's Purpose? I'm going to bet you probably have.
No, I don't think
Oh,
I have.
you have to
I'm
watch A Dog's
sorry. Which show is that on?
It's a movie. It's called A Dog's Purpose, and it is about a dog that reincarnates several times throughout its
Oh, oh
existence.
my gosh!
I've watched it. It's one of my favorite movies. I've watched it a number of
But
times. I cry my head off every single time I see it.
but it's on Netflix or Amazon or one of those? No.
Sure, I'm not sure, but if you look it online for the movie A Dog's Purpose, you'll find it somewhere. And I mean, I highly recommend it because you are going to see your story in that movie, and
Oh, I
it's
love that. Oh, thank you for sharing that because that gives me strong
yeah.
confirmation. It
I think the actor's name is Dennis Quaid that's in it. I'm almost positive that was him in the movie, but it's about him when he gets a dog as a young boy, and then the dog passes away, of course, and then the dog goes through several other lives with other people, and ends up. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but
yeah, please don't.
it's a very emotional. It's a very emotional movie for a dog lover, but it's definitely will speak to your story with Gus and Zeke. I know. I've just as you're telling me that I'm flashing on the movie the whole time you're talking, so it's kind of like
Oh, I love that. I'm definitely but listen, they're here to help us.
yeah, yeah.
They come I truly believe they come into our life for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I feel
And
like most animals is well, most house animals, and I mean, as I was sharing some stories with you before we started recording about, dogs and the cat that have been in my life where it's just they just knew what to do and what not to do. And my little corgi that I have now, he knows when I'm feeling down, and he just all he does is come and be with me. He's like, he knows he doesn't need to do anything else, but that's what he's here for. And he's um just such a special blessing to me when I don't feel well. So I say, oh, here's my dog.
yeah, they are. They're a blessing and I just feel extremely grateful for my life and I I feel that void has been fulfilled now with Zeke because there was a deep void within me when Gus left. It was because I'm normally a very upbeat person, but that was not fun to go through.
Yeah.
But it transformed me for sure. Grief is a transformer.
It is. And I know
Mhm.
I've heard from people who've said, when they lost a pet that they were that close to, they're like, I can't do this again. I can't get another pet because, we survived them for the most part, I know in my experiences that, you don't replace the dog. It's like, it's just, a new person or new being, a new spirit, whatever is in your life. And it does
Yes.
really helps you
Yeah.
to heal, but you're not replacing or forgetting.
Exactly. And, but just how it all came to fruition is written in the book. Lots of great messages for people.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to read it. I'm looking forward to the pet one for sure because it's probably going to make me cry. But I
That's
love animal
okay.
stories. Animal stories really good. But yeah, so we will have in the podcast notes a link to that where if there is a link available yet. I know it's not coming out until the 8th of April, but at least the name of it in there so people can find it once it's been published and is available out there. So anything else you'd like to share before we end today?
One thing I would like to share is when your pet is deceased, is walk through those memories. Go to those places and walk through. That's part of the grieving process. It took me a long time, but yes, just walk through every memory you possibly can, and it helps. It's hard, very hard, but it helps.
And,
Helps.
your comment about your daughter's dog makes me think of things too. Other animals, they know that something has changed,
Yes.
that the animal has gone. When my dog Lily passed, her bed, the other dog we had at the time, went straight to the bed and wanted to sleep in her bed all the time after she passed. So it's kind of like she needed to keep that closeness to her as well. So yeah, it's kind of they know that things have changed, and it's always I don't know. It's like children. It's like how do you help them through that is kind of what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, and it's all part of the process, but we can definitely learn from them, and then yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for being my guest today. I've enjoyed hearing about your stories and look
Thank
forward to
you.
reading your books.
Well, Christine, thank you for having me again, and I really hope that your audience can take away some golden nuggets because that's what I'm
Yep.
here for.
Yep. Yep.
Okay? All
Absolutely.
right.
All right.
All right,
Thank
you take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Good Grief. We hope that the stories shared today have inspired and empowered you on your own journey of resilience. If you want to dive deeper into the themes of trauma, tragedy, and survival, be sure to check out my memoir, The Day I Became the Spider Killer, a memoir of trauma, tragedy, and survival. In this book, I shared my own raw and honest experiences, offering insights and strategies for overcoming life's toughest challenges. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or listen to it on Audible. Your support helps us continue to bring these powerful stories to light and spread a message of hope and resilience. Stay tuned for more incredible stories on our next episode. Until then, remember, even in the face of life's toughest trials, there can be light, growth, and good grief.